I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Coralville City Council to order on June 13th, 2017. Roll call.
Councilmember Holt.
Present.
Gross. Gill.
Present.
Dodds.
Present.
Goodrich.
Here.
Okay, all council members except for Gross are present, as is the mayor and the city clerk and city attorney, city administrator, and several staff members out in the audience. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Hope. To approve, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion is, or the agenda is approved. Okay, we have a special, very special item on tonight's agenda that's next up. It's an opportunity that we have to recognize some employees of the city that, on a very serious incident that has, fortunately, a good ending to it. So, what I'd like to do is I'm going to read the description of the incident and the response and the employees involved, and then I'm going to ask each of the employees to come up as a group, and I have certificates to give you. But pardon me for reading this, but I want to get the story very accurate and make sure I don't leave anything out and for sure anybody's name. So I'm recognizing seasonal parks worker Ashley Neese, police officers Mike Darginia, police officer Jeff Barkoff, police officer Kyle Nicholson for their teamwork, courage, and action. And here's a description of the event. On May 18th, Ashley Neese, a third-year seasonal employee who is part of the team that maintains city flower beds and pots, was at home in the yard picking up sticks as her landlord mowed the lawn. She realized she no longer heard the mower and went to investigate and found her landlord had collapsed. She called 911 immediately and started CPR, which she had just learned through training for Parks Department employees. Coralville police officers Mike Darginia, Jeff Barkoff, and Kyle Nicholson arrived quickly and shocked the woman with the defibrillator. They were able to restore her pulse, and she was then transported by Johnson County Ambulance to the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics for further care. Her outlook is reported as good. We are grateful for the patient's positive outcome and would like to honor Ashley's responsiveness as well as that of both the day and evening shifts of the police department. Their teamwork and action saved a life. Well, this is not a first or most likely the last time Coralville public safety employee saved a life. The circumstances of this instance make it an exceptional example of teamwork, courage, and action, and we would like to thank all involved for their response. So, yeah, just to summarize, the Coralville Police Department are the first responders for most medical calls in the city of Coralville, and they're all fully equipped and trained with medic kits. And it is not an unusual event for them to have to defibrillate someone who's gone down. But in this case, we just thought it was a good opportunity to draw attention to the importance of CPR training and at the same time recognize the parks employee and the fine work done by the police department. So I would like to invite Ashley and Officers Barkoff, Darginia, and Nicholson to come up to the podium, please. Go up to the front here. Ashley, again, thank you very much for doing absolutely the right thing. You know, you called 911 first. That's the first thing anybody should always do. And then it was just so fortunate that you had just been trained in CPR. So thank you for taking the time out to be trained.
Thank you.
Don't go away. I have something else for you. Kyle? Officer Kyle Nicholson, thank you for your good response that evening or afternoon. Appreciate the good work. Mike Darginia, same thing, thank you. And Jeff Barkoff, thank you, gentlemen. Now, we can't really, with our tight budget that the city has, we'd like to give you $100 grand. But unfortunately, it's in the form of a candy bar. Here's your $100 grand. Candy bars, you're going to enjoy it. Last as long as you can. I suggest that you don't leave it. Don't leave it in your car. So, Any of you are welcome to go to the podium and make any comments if you wish. If you care not to, that's okay too.
Before they do comments, Mayor, can we have everybody squished together a little bit and get a couple photos?
Looks good. So anyway, if you'd like to speak, feel free. Thank you very much. I didn't realize.
All right, right on.
Would any, you're just welcome to say anything, or do you, anybody's welcome to comment if you like, so.
Mayor, I'd like to say that, you know, I've always said that our city employees, I'll stack them up against any city in the country or the world, and this just proves it. And they don't toot their horns very well. So I think we ought to toot them a little more often like this. I really am grateful for this opportunity, and I'm sure there are going to be more. But I love this this whole setup right here. This is great.
Well put.
And welcome.
Ashley.
And I'd like to thank the City of Coralville for the opportunity in learning these classes, and it helped to save a life, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity and glad to be there in time. And I'd like to also thank the officers for quite the quick response and assistance in saving her.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Glad to have you all with us. Okay, you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or if you'd like to depart, we'll allow that too.
Shield, till we come. Thank you.
Sure. Do it.
Shields, here we go.
Okay, next item on the agenda, I have two proclamations this evening. The first one is one that we're very proud to do. That's a bit of a pun because it's for Pride Week, and we're proud to do Pride Week. It's something that we've been doing every year for as long as I've been on either the council or sitting in this seat as mayor. So I would like to read this proclamation, City of Coralville. Whereas queer people across the nation celebrate pride in their culture and community in the month of June, and whereas queer people in Coralville will celebrate Pride Month in June, and whereas the Coralville community is strengthened and enhanced through the contributions of all its citizens. Now therefore I, John A. Lundell, Mayor of the City of Coralville, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2017 to be Pride Month. Signed this 13th day of June 2017. I'm signing it. And we have Amos Jewell here. That's, I got that right? Jewel Amos. It's one of these things when it came in on the answering machine, when you first called me, it had it listed the wrong way, and that's, I'm sorry. Please come forward and accept the proclamation, Amos. Thank you very much, and you're welcome to say a few words if you'd like.
Okay.
Yep.
I do want to say a couple words. I appreciate this. Our president did not do this, and it's the first time in many years that our president hasn't honored this month. It's started because of the Stonewall riots in 1969. That's why June was proclaimed Pride Month. Just a little history there. And Iowa City, Coralville area has been like marching and everything since 1970, so the immediate year after. So we're kind of known as one of the longest running ones in the nation. And it means a lot that you all are participating in this. And John said he was going to come Saturday and read it. It'll be at noon in the Ped Mall. We have around 90 different vendors, which are either nonprofits, businesses, corporations, local corporations and stuff, that will be there to help build our community and network. And we have activities going on throughout the week, including a bar crawl this evening. That's why there's not a whole lot of representation here right now.
It started already.
It has already started. So if anybody wants to come out, feel free to.
Okay.
But thank you very much for this.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Joel. I'll see you Saturday.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Second proclamation is from an organization that the city of Coralville is a member of, the National League of Cities, and it's just drawing attention to the importance of the small communities in our country. Whereas small cities and towns under 50,000 population are the home to millions of Americans and constitute the vast majority of municipalities across the United States. And whereas small cities and towns strive to strengthen their communities through their provision of services and programs to improve the quality of life for all citizens. And whereas the federal government is an essential partner in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to continue to support programs and legislation that strengthen small communities. And whereas state governments are partners in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to continue to support key programs and legislation that strengthen communities. And whereas organizations, businesses, and citizens are partners in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to continue to grow their efforts to make small communities a viable choice for people to live in. And whereas during these challenging economic times, the need for a renewed intergovernmental partnership to support essential public services is more important than ever to ensure the safety and growth of small town America. And whereas the National League of Cities President and Small Cities Council of the National League of Cities has declared June 2017 as Small Cities Month, now therefore I, John A. Lundell, Mayor of the City of Coralville, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2017 to be Small Cities Month, and encourage President Trump, Congress, state governments, organizations, businesses, and all citizens to recognize this event and to work together this month and throughout the year to invest in small cities and towns to the better the lives of all our citizens. Signed this 13th day of June 2017. And I will accept it on behalf of the city of Coralville. Thank you very much. I think it's in the appropriate partners will be notified of this proclamation. Okay, next item is citizen comments. This is the item on the agenda for anyone in the audience that would like to speak to us tonight for an item that's not already listed on the agenda. Feel free to step up to the microphone and try and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Is there anyone like to speak? Hello there. You know the routine. Please sign in.
I will. I'm Tracy Achenbach with the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County. Thank you. I am going to be brief because I have a commitment at 7 o'clock, but I won't speed, I promise. I am just here to thank you sincerely for your contribution, your continued contribution to the Housing Trust Fund. I received our letter that we again were awarded funding of $15,340, and I really appreciate that, and I know that my board really appreciates that. And I also, the last time I was in front of you to thank you, I did not include thanking you for providing our vice chair, which is Ellen Hobble, and she is a very valued board member. So I appreciate that she's also able to serve on our board. But in the last year, I believe we have awarded projects in Coralville. Well, actually, with the revolving loan fund, it was $105,000 for projects in Coralville. Of course, we awarded $300,000 to the Lantern Park project that we haven't paid out yet, but anticipate doing that soon. And then also in our owner-occupied rehab program that we have, we ended up awarding. We assisted 5 homeowners with Housing Trust Fund dollars that supplemented the FHLB program, and 2 of those were not people that had received funding from the Federal Home Loan Bank program that we had. So it was Housing Trust Fund dollars in addition to those. But that was actually a total of 8 homeowners. 6 of them were below 80%, and as you know, that's our requirement. They have to be below 80%, but 2 of them were actually below 30% median income. So you had a couple of extremely low-income folks in there who were homeowners and received assistance from us to be able to help them. The total amount that we spent just of Housing Trust Fund dollars, just on the 5 that we did with Housing Trust Fund dollars, that total amount was $12,218. And then the FHLB dollars was $40,422. So we have expended a lot, and so we use your money well, I think, in your community, but I just wanted to say thanks a lot for your continued support.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tracy.
And I'll write my stuff down.
You still have 15 minutes to get there, so. Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to speak to us this evening?
My name's Mike Schroeder. I live at 717 19th Avenue. I was here a couple months ago advocating for a sidewalk. I walk quite recently, frequently, from my house around to the Camp Cardinal Road, Clear Creek bike path, back around to the Arby's outlet, and then come back and go home. This is the only therapy that I was given when 5 years ago I broke my neck, and 3 years ago I had a stroke. I'm still walking, don't need a wheelchair.
Wow.
But I do have a handicap sticker, okay? I don't do well if I'm gonna navigate grass. So when I walk from my house over to the Camp Cardinal Road, I've got about 3 blocks of grass to walk unless I walk in the street. Now, bikers don't even ride in the street on Camp Cardinal Road. They've got a beautiful sidewalk from the bridge over to Melrose, 1.8 miles. But we've got 0.2 miles that needs to be finished,
Yeah.
okay? And after speaking to you a few months ago, I called the U.S. Postal Service, customer service, and they gave me a case number because there needed to be some answer whether the post office is handicap accessible, excuse me. And I'd be willing to share that case number with you, Mr. Hayworth. There's another issue that I'd like to alert you to, and that is traffic on the bike path, okay? Some bicyclists use that as their personal racetrack, okay? And that's a hazard to pedestrians. And aside from the sign that says no motor vehicles or no motorized vehicles, I think there should be a sign that says be alert to pedestrian traffic. Last summer, I encountered a troop coming over one of the rises in the bike path. 2 mothers pushing baby carriages and 3 little tykes on bicycles with training wheels. Now, if there's a bicyclist with their whisper quiet bikes in all their full regalia going 20 miles an hour, some do easily that. I hope the bicyclist takes the trees. But it's a clash, and the perfect storm would mean certain injuries. I think the city needs to address that. I address it when people approach me from the rear and don't warn me, okay? But I'm not very kind. Okay, that's all.
Okay, well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for being a bit of the squeaky wheel when it comes to that section of the bike path, because you're right. We have talked about, or you brought that to our attention before, and we've talked a little bit about it, and it's obviously kind of a challenging situation, but that doesn't mean it can't be addressed due to the width of the space there and so forth. It just we need to keep looking at and come up with a solution. And Sherry Proud, our Parks and Rec Director, is here, so she heard your comments about the trail system. So I think the right people were here tonight.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to us this evening? Okay, seeing none, I think we'll move on. Item 7 is sanitary sewer rates. This is the third and final reading of an ordinance that updates the sewer rates starting July 1st in Coralville. This is an adjustment in the rates in order to generate sufficient funds over the next several years to pay for a major sanitary sewer improvement project that we're about to undertake that will keep us up and in compliance with our water sewer treatment projects, and also accommodate the growth that we're expecting to continue to occur in our city. So, ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 2017-1007, an ordinance amending Chapter 107 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Coralville, 2011, as previously amended by changing sanitary sewer rates or sanitary sewer fees. It's introduced for adoption, third and final consideration by Councilmember Hope, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. Discussion. Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
The ordinance passes its final consideration, all ayes with Gross absent. Item 8 is fireworks regulation. This is a second reading of an ordinance that will bring the Coralville's Code of Ordinances into compliance with the Iowa General Assembly's newly passed Senate File 489, which will allow the sale and use of certain fireworks within the state of Iowa. Coralville will continue its ban on the use of consumer fireworks within the city, but this ordinance will also regulate the sale of fireworks within the city as allowed by state law.
Ordinance number 2017-1008, an ordinance amending section 41.11 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Coralville regarding fireworks regulation is introduced for adoption. Second consideration by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Hope. Is there any discussion?
Ori, there's been a lot of confusion about these ordinances. There's been so much coverage at different cities. Can you just explain just briefly how the sale is regulated and what's involved in that whole process?
So the actual state law regulated the sales by pushing us to an old NFPA code, actually 2006 version. And so what we're doing with this ordinance is recognizing that that's what we're going to use. Just in the last couple of days, we got a lot of requests from our big box stores, Costco, Walmart, Target, and they've already said that they're going to stay within this amount that we've got in our ordinance, this 125 pounds. Because at that point, there's really no oversight. We look at their site, make sure the fire department can get in there, and of course, most of those are established facilities. But outside of checking on them to make sure they don't go over that quantity, we don't have to go in and look at aisle widths and location in the store and that kind of stuff. So, and that was actually just a couple days ago, the state fire marshal agreed to that interpretation that if they stay below that, they do not have to be monitored with the actual checklist that the state requires be furnished. The temporary structures, we have not, I've had one inquiry with a phone call that they have not asked for any documentation yet on what we're going to do for a temporary structure. This particular ordinance that we have here will just regulate those to the same quantity as we are the actual stores. So a lot of jurisdictions are doing the same thing in terms of regulating the sales with the quantity amount and planning and zoning issues of where they can actually set up inside their communities. So.
Okay, thank you, Ori.
Great. Thanks, Ori.
Any other?
I struggled a lot with this bill, as most of my colleagues are aware of. Most of that has to do with the fact that this was such incredibly poorly written legislation from the state. It seems absolutely ludicrous that the state's required to sell fireworks, but then it's not regulated and brought down to the cities to decide about where it should be implemented or not. So with that said, and a lot of back and forth discussion, I'm going to go with what our fire department and our police department were recommending, and will support that we will not have fireworks inside the city limits. But it wasn't without a lot of deep thought that I came to that conclusion. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
to clarify, it's not that you can't have them, it's that you can't fire them all.
Fire them.
Correct.
You can possess them. You just
Which is
can't
so much
shoot 'em.
fun.
Yeah, you can look
I mean,
at
that-
them, you could admire them, that's fine.
You can
just
store
can't shoot 'em
them.
off in the city.
You can carry them
You can
around.
take them out in the county and shoot them all you want.
Yeah.
You can
But
trade
that's a
them.
good clarification, Bill, and that's the important part, because people don't understand that
Right.
you can buy them anywhere in
Yep.
Iowa. You can buy them, it's just that you can't shoot them off
Buy 'em,
necessarily.
possess 'em.
But you gotta
Right.
be careful about where you're shooting
That's
them
right.
off and understand where you're shooting them off.
Right.
So, and with that, the people that sell them are under the state, or the state fire marshal, and how many do they, how they can store that, the fire, right?
And that's different in every city.
And that's different. That's the regulation. They have to meet the state requirements for fire.
Or go up to the mic, so that.
There is some question still on how the storage is going to be handled. As I mentioned, the quantity that we have and what's in 1124 for 125 pounds or less takes you out of the 1124 Chapter 7. And so if they're storing them, our building code and fire code wouldn't allow it in a permanent building. But if they had a temporary structure that the city might allow through planning and zoning, then that storage will probably fall under Chapter 6, which becomes a little more aggressive on the style of storage. So the storage is a little different than the actual selling. But a lot of communities, well, I say a lot, the few I've talked to are using the zoning peddlers temporary sales portion of their codes and saying that these items have to be locked up or taken down and removed every night. So we're going to have to look at where those are going. Are they ending up in a storage connex just about anywhere, U-Haul or whatever? But we don't have much guidance on how to handle that yet, so we're going to take that as it comes. Again, the only actual requests we've received have been the ones for the big box stores. They're using a third-party provider who's going to deliver. And for an example, 500 pounds of packaged fireworks is about 2 pallets worth. We did receive yesterday or today some pictures from Walmart and Target on how their displays are going to look, how they've set them up in other stores in other states. And it's pretty much a package deal. They come in with a shrink-wrapped pallet with all the stuff right on it, the no smoking signs. They put 2 extinguishers next to it, and then they just refurbish that one. As they sell a box or 2, they get a box or 2 in. So I'm not anticipating any issues with any of those permanent stores. We'll have to wait to see if we get any of those requests for those temporary ones. I think that's where we're going to have to target our enforcement. So
I think it's also important to know, if I'm misunderstanding this, please, the people that understand the law or the ordinance better than I do, correct me. But regarding the temporaries, they first need to apply for a state license before they can apply for a local permit. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the first thing we'd ask for, if they have the state license to sell.
Okay, and they need to have it and present it to even be considered for a permit in Coralville to sell in a temporary facility, right?
Yes.
Either or, but I'm
Yeah.
talking specific more to temporary, because that's the question that I have as a citizen out there is, well, they're just gonna pop the stands up like they pop up corn stands or whatever else and just sell them anywhere. No, there are some checks and requirements that they have to go through just to sell them in a temporary spot. Is that correct?
that's correct. The state they have an online system. As soon as the vendor requests a license, they provide the information they need for the state rules. Then the state's issuing them, because of the time frame, a temporary license to sell based on an inspection that's going to be done in the next 3 days. The fire chief has agreed that in our community that I'll do that inspection for the state fire marshal's office. So we get an email as soon as they approve that temporary license. They can sell with that temporary license if they sign off a self-checklist. And then once we come in and do the actual inspection, we'll send that to the state, and then they'll give their permanent one to them. So if we find, we're getting that notice, so if we find that there's a tent or stand or something else that's up, if we haven't given that notice, we're going to approach them and see why they're there. They're also using the State Patrol to assist them with stands. It won't be an issue in our community. Obviously, we're here, but in some of the smaller communities, they're going to watch for those things also. But they have to provide all that information to the state, and then once they get that license, then they would be able to sell. So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
I hope that we can, Mayor, I'll look at you at this, with the League of Cities, maybe really work to fix this next year in the legislation and clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be more discussion about it, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, oh, I'm sorry, but the solution is what Kelly says. Don't fire the fireworks off, come to our fireworks display. Saves a lot of time and a lot of stress.
Lauren?
Well, one positive point is that we get to have home rule. I'm glad that we can decide what's best for Coralville. And I think it probably will be, it's been last minute and probably messy this year, but I think, you know, in the future, it'll be figured out and the regulations and so on will be to our best interest for Coralville.
Yeah, I'll just add too that we certainly can't require stores to put up anything, but I would love it if they would put up a small sign that says, notice, use of consumer fireworks is not permitted in Iowa City, Coralville, and North Liberty, University Heights, so that the people don't get the impression if they can buy them, they can use them. Now, I realize those stores sell to outside of our area in communities that do allow it, so I understand why they're selling them, but it kind of leads people to believe maybe they can go home and shoot them in their backyard. So.
I agree, Mayor, but I think that'll probably be their best kept secret.
there are some communities that are requiring sellers to give out a flyer with their sales, primarily the ones that have changed the dates and times. So the state law allowed you to say no fireworks, but it also allowed you to shorten the time frame. I think Council Bluffs, I saw their reading last night, their second reading was they're only going to allow it from July 1st to July 4th, and New Year's Day to New Year's evening. And so some of those communities, because they're changing that, are giving flyers out. So and I do have some examples of those that have been sent around. So
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work.
Yep.
on this.
Yeah.
Don, did you read the second reading yet?
No,
We're ready for roll call.
I'll make a motion to collapse the third reading.
Well,
I don't think
we need a roll call on the first.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance passes its second consideration, all ayes with Gross absent. Now,
So I make a motion to collapse third reading of ordinance 2017-1008.
Second.
seconded by Hope. Roll call.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes with Gross absent. Third reading.
Ordinance number 2017-1008, an ordinance amending section 41.11 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Coralville regarding fireworks regulation, introduced for adoption, third and final consideration by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. Discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Passes its third and final consideration, all ayes with Gross absent. Thank you. Item 9 is Coral Ridge Commerce Park. This is a building report and planning and zoning report that building official Jim Kessler will be giving us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a final plating of 2 lots in the Coral Ridge Commerce Park. To put this in perspective of where it is, Coral Ridge Commerce Park is actually located adjacent to the University Research Park, and it is where the new Hy-Vee will possibly be located someday, and where the new Hy-Vee gas station and car wash is at this point. Lot number 5 we can discuss first. This lot is a commercial lot for future development. It's located on the northwest corner of Wheaton Road and Cross Park Road. It's 2.06 acres in size, and as I said before, it's will be for future commercial development. The only request we're making of this, and the only actual stipulation that we're putting on this lot, is that the entrance to lot number 5, or the access to lot number 5, be as far to the northeast is possible to keep it away from the congestion in the future of Wheaton Road when it should tie into Coral Ridge Avenue or 965 and Cross Park Road. So we're trying to keep the entrance to this away from that intersection as much as we possibly can. This lot was on P&Z at the last meeting and recommended that the council approve it by a 6-0 vote.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Okay, item C is approval of the revised final plat.
Resolution approving the final plat for Coral Ridge Commerce Park Phase 5, Coralville, Iowa, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Second by Dodds. Discussion? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Passes all ayes with Gross
Next
absent.
one's 6.
Next item is a similar project.
Very similar. Lot number 6 is actually located on the southwest corner of Wheaton Road and Cross Park Boulevard. Same as the lot number 5, future commercial development. On this lot, we're asking for the stipulation to keep this entrance as far in the southeast corner of this lot as we possibly can to keep it away from the intersection as well. And as I said, both of these lots are for future commercial development. To put the future in perspective, I don't think it'll happen before harvest because there's a nice stand of corn on both of these lots at this point in time. But this was on P&Z at the last meeting also and recommended for approval by a 6-0 vote.
Thank you, Jim.
Resolution approving the final plat for Coral Ridge Commerce Park Phase 6, Coralville, Iowa, is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Hope, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion? Roll call.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Okay, resolution is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. Item 10 is WESTCOR Business Park, Part 13. This is a preliminary and a final plat that Jim will tell us about.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor. WESTCOR Part 13 and this lot subdivision is located at the junction of WESTCOR Drive, which is WESTCOR Drive right here, Highway 6 here, and this is the railroad that passes to the north of this. Lot number 1, already developed down here as part of Part 1, is the Tyson's location, and part number 12, lot number 1, is where the Hawkeye Harley is located. Once again, this is in a commercial area, so these lots will be for future commercial development. Lot number 1 is being platted as a buildable lot, and the rest of the parcel is being platted as an outlot for future development. You're looking at the preliminary plat right now. Final plat is much the same. Lot number 1, which will be platted as a buildable lot at this point in time, Lot A for future development. This also was on P&Z at the last meeting, and this was recommended for approval by a vote of 5 with 1 abstention due to conflict.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Item C is approving the preliminary plat.
Resolution approving the preliminary plat for WESTCOR Business Park, Part 13, Coralville, Iowa, is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Second by Goodrich. Discussion. Can you just address how this plays into the discussion the council's previously had about requiring the extension of that road for second access to these properties?
Yeah, I mean, the next parcel over is owned by a different property owner than what's under the subdivision. And so, you know, we will need to have further discussion with council, obviously, and we can approach the landowner again. In past, they hadn't been interested in participating in the process, and if that's the case, we would need to go through the whole process of acquiring right-of-way, and then we could do a special assessment back. And so that's something that we'll plan on putting on a future council meeting for your discussion. And if you decide you'd like to move forward, there's a whole series of things that we'll need to go through in regards to acquisition of right-of-way, and then we could do a special assessment process.
Okay. For the information for the public, the council and the staff have concerns that, especially given the fact that there's a railroad there, there's a increasing amount of development with Tyson's and Hawkeye Harley, and now these two lots that would only be currently accessible from that single entry point off of Highway 6. And were there to be a major train and a fire, a medical call on the other side, it could really delay emergency responders to that area. And that's why we're discussing that extension of that road to link back up to Highway 6 so you could enter it from both ends. So what we're approving tonight doesn't allow them to move forward with any construction or anything yet. So,
No.
Thank you. Resolution, or I guess we, roll call.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Preliminary plat is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. Item D is approving the final plat.
Resolution approving the final plat for WESTCOR Business Park, Part 13, Coralville, Iowa, is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodds, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion. Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Final plat is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. Item 11, stormwater pump stations 7 and 8 modifications, and City Engineer Dan Holderness is going to give us a bid report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bids were received for this project on Tuesday, June 6th. We received 5 bids for the project. The low bid was submitted by Tricon Construction Company. However, Tricon failed to submit some of the required paperwork to go along with their bids that was required by the bid notices. Part of the funding for this project is from the CDBG program, Community Development Block Grant Program, and that has some specific requirements about what's required to be submitted and other requirements like that. And since Tricon did not submit the required paperwork, Section 26.9 of the Code of Iowa requires that the City Council award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder. And because, again, Tricon did not submit the necessary paperwork, our recommendation is that the city should award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, which is WRH Inc. of Amana, in the amount of $2,429,864.50. That's some $140,000 less than the engineer's estimate of about $2.6 million. So again, we would recommend award to WRH Inc. Based on their lowest responsible bid.
Thank you, Dan. Consider a resolution.
Resolution accepting bids and awarding the construction contract for the stormwater pump stations 7 and 8 modifications 2017 is introduced. Adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Hope. Any discussion? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Okay, resolution approved, all ayes with Gross absent. Item C is a resolution approving the contract and bond documents for this project.
Resolution approving the contract and bond documents for the stormwater pump stations 7 and 8 modifications 2017 is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Hof, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion? Roll call.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. Item 12, Iowa River Landing Drury Parking Ramp Project. This is a resolution that will be setting a public hearing on the plan specifications, estimate of cost for the next city council meeting, which will be June 27th, the public hearing on this project.
Resolution setting a public hearing on the plan specifications, estimate of cost, and form of contract for the IRL Drury parking ramp. Introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Dodds. Discussion? Roll call.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. Item 13, First Avenue improvements, 6th Street to 9th Street. This is a resolution dealing with the existing overhead, relocating the existing overhead electrical lines along this section of First Avenue.
Resolution approving an agreement with Mid-American Energy Company to convert the existing overhead electrical line to underground along First Avenue from 6th Street to 9th Street, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodd, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Hoft. Discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. Item 14, administrative pay scale. This is a resolution improving an increase in administrative pay scale for city employees effective July 1st. The increase is 2.5%. which is for employees not covered by a union contract and is equivalent to that increase that's included in recent union contracts.
Resolution approving an increase in the administrative pay scale effective July 1st, 2017, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion. Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Resolution approved all ayes with Gross absent. Item 15, consent and acknowledgement. This is an agreement that requires the assignees to this agreement to assume all responsibilities required in the original private redevelopment and forgivable loan agreements for the conveyance of the Leapfrog building. We'll consider the resolution, and then I'm going to ask Kelly to explain what that really means, or Kevin.
Resolution approving an agreement for consent to transfer of ownership of that building located on Lot 11, Oakdale Research Park, Coralville, Iowa, is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Hof, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Dodds.
I can add.
Okay.
So the original builder of this Oakdale 11 LLC, which is with Build to Suit, they built this building for Leapfrog. And the second floor, if you remember, we have an agreement where they can bring in certain small businesses to start on the second floor there. So the original agreement had a minimum assessment agreement, had jobs tied to the Leapfrog agreement. So Oakdale 11 is going to sell this to a group of investors. The same group of investors actually owns the MetaRev building, so they've already purchased that. And what they do is basically take the place of Oakdale 11. So they are required, if there's any defaults, they're on the hook for it. They're on the hook for it if there are defaults in the future, which we have not had any issues on the MetaRev building, so I don't expect any here.
Okay. So it just transfers those requirements to the new owners.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Resolutions approved all ayes with Gross absent. Item 16 is a management services agreement. This is a renewal of the agreement that we've had with the Marriott Hotel Services for food and beverage services at Brown Deer Golf Club. And Parks and Rec Director Sherry Proud is going to.
Yeah, there's not a lot of changes to this agreement. We have had Marriott Hotel and Conference Center manage the food and beverage services since 2007 at Brown Deer. This renewal sets it up so that it's an automatic renewal month to month unless either party takes advantage of the termination clauses. And it also changes the way that the incentive fee is paid out related to the end of year budgets for the city of Coralville.
Okay. Very good. Don?
Resolution approving a Brown Deer Golf Course Management Services Agreement with Marriott Hotel Services, Inc. is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. Any discussion? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Resolution is approved all ayes with Gross absent. Item 17 is a development agreement, and this is for a proposal for a mixed-use development project on a 4.28 acre parcel located on the southeast corner of the intersection of East 7th Street and First Avenue.
Resolution setting a public hearing on the proposal to enter into a development agreement with CAARGNT Coralville LLC is introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodd, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion?
Yes, we'll set the hearing for the next meeting, and we'll have the development agreement on at that point also.
Okay, next meeting's on June 27th.
Correct.
Yeah, it's great. It's something we've been talking about for quite a while, and it's good it's going to happen.
Yep, another big piece of the Iowa River Landing continuing to grow. Roll call.
Holt.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Resolution is approved all ayes for setting that public hearing. Item 18 is an exclusive option agreement. This is a 9-month agreement for the development of a possible hotel on the Brown Deer Golf Club complex. Sherry.
In 2011, Kelly, Sean McCarty, and myself visited a property down in Kansas City area with the company Fairway Suites, and they specialize in pairing hotel complexes with conference centers and golf clubs with hotels and conference centers. And this particular piece is they're looking at, it would be a hotel and would use the clubhouse as their conference center. We worked with them 2011 through early 2014. That agreement expired. There wasn't much interest then, but Fairway Suites has had some interest in our site. I've got the site pulled up on the map. It's this right as you come into Country Club Drive. This acreage here just south of, this is the driving range here, and then this would be the south of here. So we've looked at some preliminary back when we first worked with them, and the site does work for a hotel on that, a small hotel on that conference center, or a small hotel on that area. And this would just say that we're going to work with Fairway Suites again. It would give them the exclusive option then for the next 9 months. Anything that would be developed and would come forward through that process, so for you to look at what that would look like.
Very good. Any other discussion or questions for Sherry? Roll call.
Dodd.
Aye.
Well,
Aye.
He didn't read it yet.
You didn't read it yet, I'm sorry. Dodd, please read the resolution.
Resolution approving a 9-month exclusive option agreement with Fairway Suites Development LLC, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Dodds. Ask again, any questions or comments? Roll call.
Well, what's good for Congress is good for us, isn't it? So, Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Hope.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. I'd now consider a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented or amended.
Move to approve the consent calendar items A through Y inclusive.
Second.
Okay, moved by Gill, seconded by Hoft. Any discussion? Roll call.
Hope.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved, all ayes with Gross absent. 20 is the city administrator's report.
yeah, thank you. First of all, I would just like to thank all those folks that were involved in making the community meal last Friday night a success. It was, they had over 400 people there, and I think people enjoyed not only the food, but the activities and the library being open, and so it was a really great event to have everybody pulled together. I had received notice this week, or I guess it was last week actually, from Brian Watts and the Watts Group that did the Old Town development on 5th Street. That was the area that was flooded back in 2008, and all those homes were destroyed back in that particular area. But I received notice last week because they have now completed all of the housing units in that area, the townhomes, and then the 2 buildings, apartment buildings. And there's a little over 110 units in the apartments, and then all the townhomes, and then the retail space. Well, they were very proud of the fact that they've now sold the last of the townhomes, that they've also got all of the 2 buildings, apartment buildings completed and 100% leased, and they've got the commercial space now 100% leased as well. So the whole project is done. It was done, I think, what, a couple years?
2 years early.
2 years earlier than what they had originally anticipated. And we have a lot of people in housing in that area that really like that particular location, you know, really at the heart of our community. So I think that's a huge success. We're on our last flood project, and have new housing in several places that were destroyed by the floods of 2008. And it seems appropriate to bring that up tonight, since this is the 9th anniversary of the start of the 2008 flood.
Right.
The 13th was when the flood started, so many of us remember that very, very well.
But you should be congratulated to the staff, and the city should be congratulated, because we've turned an area that was a flood-prone area, and we had shovel-ready jobs, and we remember shovel-ready jobs. We've completely changed the area and it's flood-free. And our last section, right, Kelly? The last section on Clear Creek is about to be finished.
Yep.
So the city staff and everybody should be congratulated for a job well done.
It's really a great project. A couple other quick things. The mayor, city engineer, and I had an opportunity to welcome the DOT commission to the Marriott today and give them a presentation jointly with North Liberty in regards to many projects around the community, and thank them for their efforts. Our next big project that we'll be presenting to them is the First Avenue interchange on Interstate 80. We're close to getting everything signed off by the Federal Highway Administration. The environmental study's done and the interstate justification report is done. And so now the next step is to actually get on the 5-year road plan. And so the next 5-year road plan was approved today. And so our goal would be to get on the 5-year road plan that would be approved next June. So it was very nice to hear from the DOT staff that the commission loves having their meeting at the Marriott. And they've been here twice before, and so we hope to welcome them back there as well. Last thing I'd just point out is Joe Corlett is here tonight, and Joe is a scout with Troop 207, and he's working on the Citizenship in the Community merit badge. And so it's good to have Joe here, and he will be leaving next week for a week at scout camp. So, and it's going to be a lot cooler next week.
Yeah,
That's it.
Thank you, Kelly. Mayor's report. Well, good to have you here, Joe. I hope you've found it interesting. We've had a little more discussion than we've had at some of our previous meetings. So you got to be in on the first fireworks resolution and some good stuff. And the recognition of the lady who was saved, that was very good. So pleased to have you. I want to just mention one other event that took place this past weekend, and that was the annual Iowa Firefighters Memorial Service up at the Firefighters Memorial on First Avenue. It's really an honor for Coralville to be hosting this statewide memorial, and we had a huge crowd there this year. We had, in the past year, we added 108 new names of deceased firefighters to the memorial wall. And there's two ways you can have your name memorialized on the wall at the site. Either case, you do have to be deceased. But first of all, if you're unfortunate to be a firefighter and die in the line of duty, whether it's your first day on the fire department or 20 years in, if you die in the line of duty, you automatically qualify to go on the wall. Or if you pass away from natural causes, cancer, heart attack, whatever it might be, but you served in the fire service for 10 years or longer, you can have your name put on the wall. And so that 108 represents mostly those that are senior firefighters, have been on the departments for many years, but this year we added 3 firefighters that died in the line of duty in the past year in Iowa. So it was a great service. Like I said, a big crowd, and it attracts people from all across the state because the families of nearly all of those 108 come here and they lay wreaths in front of the memorial as part of the service. So it's quite a benefit to the entire community. And if anybody drove down First Avenue, the 2 fire department ladder trucks, Iowa City and Coralville, hung the large flag over the street. And it's always a great ceremony. So thanks to our departments very involved in getting that organized and the state associations. It's a really nice event. If Mitch was here tonight, I would congratulate him for his once again success as state champions in boys tennis. He's also recognized this year by the Des Moines Register as the Coach of the Year for boys tennis. So congratulations to Mitch. He and his wife are enjoying themselves in France right now. So that's it for me. City Attorney's report.
Unfortunately, I was going to echo your comments on Mitch, and he isn't here, but so many of us in Coralville, I think, are rightfully proud and pleased with the achievements of the West High Trojans, male and female, in all the various sports. It thrills me having my kids all gone through West High and everything, but it isn't so difficult to understand when you see people like Mitch realize the quality of the instructors and the teachers that we have over there that bring this all about. And I wouldn't say this if he was here, but I just want to congratulate him anyway. That's all I have, Kevin.
Oh, I'd just like to say I did one other event. Substance-Free Summer was held on the last day of school over at Morrison Park, and the police department put that on, and Chief Crone could cook himself a mean burger even with one hand.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Committee and council members report. Bill, you're kind of down there by yourself, so we'll start with you.
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Gill.
Well, I'm just getting ready for 4th of July, so I'll let the events
It's coming,
take
yeah.
care of themselves.
Councilmember Dodge.
I just wanted to echo Kelly's discussion about the community meal that we had with the community food pantry, and highlight some of the companies that volunteered their services or the products. Hy-Vee donated all of the hamburgers and hot dogs. I mean, for 450 people, that's a lot of food. And our Coralville Police Department contributed their grilling skills to get that all accomplished. Wildwood Farms and Local Harvest, CSA for the vegetables, United Methodist Church, of course, let them use their kitchen to prepare all and cook all the food like they usually do. And Hills Bank and Trust did the ice cream. And then Lowe's did container garden supplies with like big buckets to plant tomatoes and things. And I just really think that's a cool idea to keep passing forward ways that you can have your own food at home. So, and then Kevin B.F. Burt did the tunes like he does a lot of times for the pantry things. So I appreciate not only the community showing up, but all of these partners in our community that just always come forth and join together to help make this possible. So I thank you all.
Well put.
Good. We also, Sherry with the Parks and Rec had appreciation burgers and hot dogs and so on last night for volunteers. And that was at the park with the community band playing and a lot of other activities. Also, it was a fun night. So there's just so much going on in Coralville. I wanted to mention, none of us have said much about the passing of our dear past mayor, Fawcett. We recognized him, the staff and city council and so on, with funds that will sponsor a bench that will be somewhere in the park. And just really appreciate that, everybody joining together in memory of Mayor Fawcett.
Thank you, Lori. I apologize for not mentioning Jim's passing. I guess I'd forgotten we haven't had a council meeting since that occurred, so. Yeah. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gill, second by Hope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, shoot.